All right, guys. In this episode, this is video number 5 on how to hire a top salesperson. Always good to bring them into a little background music, get them motivated. Actually, I just came from a Styx concert, so I'm kind of motivated right now. What I want to do is go over the interview process that we use here, and let me give you some of the interview questions that we use that I love. I've been using these questions for years. Again, I learned this from Chet Holmes's book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. So what you want to establish is we hire based on personality. So I'm going to ask you some personal questions. Would you agree that that's important? And usually you get some compliance. There's all sorts of rules governing what you can and cannot ask, but I think as small business owners, we have a little bit more freedom to ask a little bit more. You do have to be careful, but they can tell you anything. So, you can ask a question that maybe leads to something more personal that will help you evaluate if that person's going to be a good fit for your company. So the best thing you can do is be yourself here. Don't try and give me answers I want to hear. And then, so one of my first questions, did you aspire? I'm not going to give you all these, but I'm going to give you a few of the ones I really like. So did you ever aspire to be anything growing up? And how did your parents react? So Chet Holmes said that they did a study on some of the most successful people, and one thing they found is a really good salesperson or somebody who was very successful. The one thing that they had in common, they couldn't find hardly anything. The one thing they had in common is that they had a parent of the opposite sex. So if it was a male, his mother would support them in anything they wanted to be growing up. Instead of being, well, honey, not everybody can become an astronaut. You should study and practice so you have something to fall back on. Okay, so, but if somebody would encourage that child, it's funny, some of these kind of help you in raising kids too, when you think about this. But if you encourage that child to be anything that they want to be and support them in that, that's maybe a better, more positive salesperson. What are some of the biggest challenges you've had in your life, and how did you overcome them? What was the toughest sale you ever made? I love that question because you can dig in. We've all had tough sales. Have you ever reached a high level beyond just getting by? I like that question. I've asked that before and found there are some people that no, they really haven't. If they haven't, by 35, 40 years old, ever reached a level beyond just getting by, they're probably not trying very hard either. So you're going to get a very mediocre effort from that person. This is a great question. How would your best friend describe you? That's a lot easier to answer than saying, how would you describe yourself? Say, how would your best friend describe you? Well, they'd say I was funny, I'm very reliable, so it helps them describe themselves better to say, how would your best friend describe you? Who has the most faith in you and why? And then you can go into rate yourself from 1 to 10 in these areas: ambition, confidence, ability to face rejection, establishing rapport. Now, a really good salesperson in all these areas: qualifying skills, closing the sale, time management, decorating skills. Somebody that's good and confident is going to be 8, 9, 10 in all these areas. Okay, and you want somebody that has a healthy ego that does help you in sales. Self-improvement. Do you have any books on sales or self-improvement? Who's the best salesperson? Who's the best salesperson you know, and what makes him better than you? And this is one of my favorites too. Tell me about a disagreement you had with your last boss. That can really be eye-opening to, is this person a whistleblower? Or even is this person somebody that is interested in seeing the company grow? They can have a criticism of their last boss that shows you that this person really cares and wants to see the company grow, and maybe didn't like some of the management style of their previous boss. So it gets into how do they think, and are they going to be a good member of your company? All right, So in this process, you've already done some to establish that this person is somewhat qualified. If you followed the process that we laid out before, you'll see that they followed the steps to get to where they're at now, which is the interview, which means they had to sell themselves into getting in front of you. So if they've made it that far and you like this person and they've answered the questions, boy, it's really tempting to hire that person now. A lot of people that are looking for salespeople and interviewing, we want to hire that person right now. This is one step I put into my process that has worked very well, and I can tell you when I used it, huge success. When I haven't used it, failure. So if I hired somebody and before following this next step, I usually failed, and that person we fired within 2 months. Okay, so what that next step is you're going to hand them a sheet of paper that says, here's the expectations that we have of our salespeople. It describes the weekly pay. It describes what we expect of you, what hours that we want you to work, covering the showroom, going to a networking group, all the things they need to know if they're going to come to work for you. So what I want you to do is take this home. Look, I really like you. I think you're going to work out well here, but I've got a couple other interviews I got to do first. So take this home, read it over, and then give me a call and let me know what you think. This is key because the number one trait of a great salesperson, in my mind, is somebody who follows up. And you want somebody, if they're going to go on an estimate, they're going to go on an appointment, you generated a lead, that lead costs you a lot of money, you want them to follow up with that lead. You know, if the person says, no, I want to think about it, or I'm getting other appointments, that's fine, but we want that person to follow up on the lead and try to close the deal. So if they're too afraid to follow up with you to get the job, then they're probably not going to follow up with your customers either. So I'll tell you a couple of success stories we've had. One of my gals, she's my top salesperson, she followed up with me the next day, and I interviewed her and another guy, and I honestly kind of liked the guy better. He had more experience, and I thought he'd be a good salesperson. But Cheryl called the next day, and I ended up giving her the job simply because she followed up. Another one, Miranda, she called me the next morning. And again, there was another guy that I interviewed, and I kind of liked him better. And I told Miranda, I said, Miranda, I interviewed two of you. I wish I could hire you both, but I've only got room for one of you. And so Miranda said, all right. And I said, I will call you by the end of the day and let you know. Well, by 4 o'clock, the guy still hadn't called. Miranda called me back again. And I said, you know what, you got the job. I mean, that was incredible follow through on her. She wanted the job. And both those salespeople are fantastic when it comes to following up with customers. They don't let anybody slip through the cracks. They gave somebody an estimate. They're going to use, and it's part of our process, the 9-word email. They're going to use the follow-up strategies we put in place to make sure that they are contacting that customer to see if they want to go with the order. And we know it can take anywhere from a week to a year for a customer to pull the trigger on an order. There's things that can happen. So you want a salesperson that's really good at follow-up. So again, build your process to make this easy. Spend a day and go through your entire process. So all you got to do is plug and play, and you're ready to go. So when you need a new salesperson, you can just put your process into play, and you don't have to make it up as you're going along. It's a bad trait that a lot of us small business people have, is we decide, okay, it's time to hire, so we create the ad. We wing it when it comes to the interview process. We don't really have a process. I'm telling you, if you build a process, you're going to be much more successful in hiring a top salesperson. All right, that's video number 5. If you missed some of the other ones, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to it. You can look at all the videos there. There's a lot of them on how to hire a top salesperson, and I hope you're enjoying them. If you got any questions, shoot me an email. So I'd love to hear from you and talk to you about business. It's a lot of fun.